Good day, friends. New morning, in fact, new week. Beautiful outside. Look at the sun shining. Fantastic. And we have a new project on the bench this morning. Came in last week. Not had time to look at it proper yet. I do know what it needs, and I'll show you what it is. And it is what it says it is. It's a very, very nice Fender Telecaster, a deluxe model. Fantastic. Belongs to a guy I've known for quite a while. He's bought a few guitars to me, and what a cracking guitar. So why is it in? Well, obviously it needs setting up, but a bit more than needs setting up. There are quite a lot of flat spots on the frets in quite a lot of areas, mainly though on these strings down here. But the guy came in with it and he says, look, he says, is that lacquer on them frets? And I says, yeah, it is. I says, Fender lacquer over the frets when they spray them. And you play it out, and there's quite a bit which has not been played out. So I've recommended to him with the flat spots. So you know what we need to do with this? I says, and to future-proof it, we're going to sort these frets out. And what we're going to do is we're going to skim over the lot, and we're going to re-profile them, because there are a lot of flat spots. And I'll show you more of the flat spots once I've got the strings off. But what a lovely guitar. I do have a Deluxe Stratocaster. This is a Deluxe Telecaster. And with a deluxe version, you get the embossed, proper inlaid Fender. You get the better inlays, dot inlays down the neck. That will be abalone, I imagine. Looking fantastic. You've got obviously better pickups. You've got all the binding. You've got the little cutaway on the neck heel there. You've got the adjustable neck. And many other things. You will have a locking tune. Should have a locking tune, isn't it? It's not locking. I have locking ones on mine. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them you have a roller nut, some you don't. But all in all, what a fantastic guitar. Now, the sad thing about this guitar is, I think he swapped this for his Deluxe Strat, which I wanted, but I couldn't afford it at the time, and it was, but he moved that on to bring in a new Telecaster. So in a way, I should be hating this guitar, but I don't hate this guitar. It looks fantastic. There is one ding on my neck there. I've just felt that. Didn't know that was there. But that is it. So what I'm going to do is look at it. It's a beauty, isn't it? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the strings off. We're going to look at these frets. Now this will be a compound radius. So I've shot myself in my foot a little bit, because it could be a 9.5 inch radius at that end and a 14 at this end, and I'm having to skim across all of the frets. So when we level a compound radius, we do it slightly different to doing a regular static radius. Like if this is a 12 inch all the way across, but really easy. 12 inch, you'd have a 12 inch radius beam and you go straight across it. We can't do that with this. We cannot use a leveling beam with this, or a radius beam with this. We have to use just a flat beam, and we have to follow the actual line of the strings, and that way it will give us that conical gradient that we're going to need, because it flattens out to 14 here down to 9.5 here. And I will show and explain more about that when I've got this neck off. And I think it may not need to go on the jig. It only needs to go on the jig if I leave the neck on the guitar. I'm not leaving the neck on the guitar. I will remove the strings and remove the neck. The guitar also obviously needs a setup. We're really flattened out here on the radius on the saddles. It looks to be about more or less flat, probably a 20 inch radius. We need to get that down to a 14 to match these frets at this end. But I can see the lacquer where it's cracking on the top of the fret. So we need to profile these anyway. Why do we lacquer over the frets, Fender? You tell me. I don't know. I don't see the point of it. But especially on the lower E and the A strings, you still see the lacquer all down there. So we're going to get it all off. Anyway, I'm not charging him a stupid amount of money for this. I've knocked him a little bit off because he's a great guy, and he brings me quite a bit of... He's always recommending me to his friends, and he's bought me a few guitars in lately. And I thought I'd do him a special rate because he paid so much for a guitar he bought in recently. And the guitar cost him more than it should have done. Not that I ripped him off, obviously, of course I didn't rip him off, but it needed more work than it should have had. And in hindsight, it would have been better replacing the neck rather than me working the neck and getting it playable. But hey ho, we learn things. So I did him a little bit of a favour on this one, and he knows that, and I know he appreciates it. He's a great guy. So anyway, that is it. I'm going to remove the strings. We'll get the neck off. We might get away with leaving the tuners on. I think I will take the tuners off. I'm going to take the tuners off. I'm going to remove the neck, I'm going to take the tuners off. I'm going to leave the nut on because the nut is glued in so well. If I replace that nut, it'll be a pain to get it all up square again. So I'm going to actually do a fret level with the nut on. Now, by rights you shouldn't do that, but there is a way to do it so you do not damage the nut and you still get the full radius on the frets, and I'll show you that little bit of trickery later on. It will include me, some masking tape and a little bit of Guitar Tech wizardry, so stay tuned for that, eh? Well, here is a surprise I wasn't expecting. I've just checked the radius of the fingerboard and this does not have a compound radius. Now my Strat does. My Strat is a 9.5 inch radius at this end and a 14 here. So I came along with a 14 and I thought, let's have a look, check it is a 14. I thought there's no way that's 14. So what I'll do is I'll take those little radius gauges and you sit these under your strings and it shows you what radius you've got. And there's a 14. And anyway, let's have a look. So 14, and we go under and look at that. It's nowhere near there. Look at the rock on that. So I thought, maybe it's not a compound radius. So if it's not a compound radius, it's going to be a 9.5 inch radius. So I went and got a 9.5 inch radius. There you go. And we know it's going to be 9.5 down here, right? And that's 9.5. But we come all the way back up and we're here. And it is a 9.5 inch radius. So it's a 9.5 inch radius all the way along the length. So you don't have a compound radius on a Fender Deluxe Tele, or not this one. I don't know why that is, but it makes my job a lot easier, which is not going to cost him less. It just makes my job a lot easier because I don't have to be so precise. And not that I won't be precise, but I do see that the radius here needs adjusting. We're not set there, so I will sort that out anyway. Just with this being a 9.5 inch radius all the way along the length, I can finish this off with a sanding beam, a radius beam, which I've got a 9.5 inch of course, big aluminium one, which is fantastic. I can see the lacquer chipping off in all little areas here. It's what I've just come from here. So, like I said, we're going to get the strings off, going to remove the tuners, get the strings off, get this all clamped up. I'll clamp this to a piece of, a big thick piece of MDF, which I use for removable necks. We'll get it all straightened up and it'll be a bit easier to get these all radius properly. But once the radius, we've got to flat spot all those frets and we need to put the crown back in. That's what takes the time. A job like this, taking your time, being nice and steady, not too steady, but I say taking your time, I mean being careful, but doing the job properly. I'll be looking at 4.5 hours on a job like this. Sometimes 5 hours depending on the job itself, but they will get a lot of polishing. We'll go with 5 or 6 grits of sandpaper, etc, etc. We don't want to be scratching the lacquer on the fingerboard, so we'll make sure everything's guarded up and everything's taped up. It's all about keeping it spick and span, isn't it? We don't want to be putting any whelks or grooves or dings in there, but we want these frets looking fantastic, and they're quite a flat fret anyway, but we are going to get them beautifully reprofiled. We'll do the guitar some justice, and I know for a fact that Simon is going to love this guitar when he gets it back. He's always loved the work I've done, so you know, let's keep that spec right up there. So I'm going to crack on with it. I'll come back and give you details as and when. So I've been talking to the owner of this guitar, and the reason this doesn't have a compound radius is it's an early model. It's actually a 2004, I thought it was a 2009, but it's a 2004. They didn't start putting compound radiuses on the deluxe models till, I'm not sure, is it 2010? I have a 2010 Strat, 2010 model, and that has a compound radius. So was that the time we started putting compound radiuses on their fingerboards? I'd imagine it was. So this is 9.5 all along, which is fantastic, makes my job a little bit easier. What we're going to do is we're going to get the neck dead straight. I'm going to set this up. I'm going to bolt this to a piece of, when I find it, MDF. I do have a 30mm piece of MDF board I use for such occurrences. And here it is. Blah, 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 blah. And once that's on there, bolted onto there, we'll get it dead straight. And I can use this, and I can anchor this down, clamp it to a table, and we can get the frets levelled. So much easier than setting up the neck jig, which I had set up last week for a Tokai Explorer with it. That had a bent neck, and the only way I could get the neck straight was to get it on the jig and get it supported underneath with steel rods and to push it or force it into straightness. which made the job easy. But this will not need to be forced into straightness. It'll be relatively easy, just a twist on the truss rod to get it absolutely straight. In fact, we'll have a look where it is now. It's straight anyway. It's exactly how I want it to be. So, just have a look at that. Oh, there's a tiny, tiny bit of relief. That's pretty good. So what I'll do is I'll get this clamped to the board. Once it's clamped to the board, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we get around this area of the nut. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build up with tape a little ramp. So if I scoot across there with a levelling beam, it's going to hit the ramp, it's going to go above the nut, it's not going to damage it. It means I don't have to remove it. The reason I do not want to remove the nut, it'll be straightforward when I show you where we are here. If you look there, it's lacquered over the edge of a nut, and if I remove that nut, it's going to chip all the lacquer around there, and I'm going to have to relax, get some stain and re-lacquer it, and that is just too much trouble. It's going to take a long time, which means more money, and I'm not going to do that. Why remove the nut if we don't have to? There's absolutely no point. So we're going to leave that knot in and we're going to work around it. Like I say, 9.5 radius all the way along. It means we only have to go to there with the file when we're sanding it. And if we scoop across the top of the nut with a ramp, we're not going to damage the nut and we're not going to cause any problems anywhere else. So relatively straightforward. I think you can see now, if I come and show you quite close, you see the lacquer on the top of these frets where it's all dull, especially on this side. So we're going to remove all that lacquer. Removing that lacquer, there'll probably be 2 or 3 layers of lacquer on there. We're only talking, you know, very small amounts, but that will make a difference to the frets and how it plays. And if you look down here, there's quite a bit of wear down this end. And we've certainly got some flat spots all the way down here. So reprofiling these is great. You can see the lacquer. And let me just hold that there. You pause that and have a look. You can see the lacquer all over the frets. So yeah, very, very shoddy. Nice neck, but lacquer, yakka. We always call it yakka. Anyway, going to crack on, get bolted up. We'll get all the neck taped up. We'll get it ready for the the re-radius in. We'll re-radius all the frets. We'll get them all level and move on from there. The neck is now bolted to a piece of MDF, which I always use when I'm doing strap necks or tele necks or whatever. Sometimes when you strap it there, you get a little bit of a bend because of where this sits, and we did get a little bit of a bend. So what I've had to do is I've had to tighten the truss rod just to get the neck straight, like so. And the neck is straight, and that's fantastic. In fact, we could do just a little nip up. We've got a little bit of a gap, a little bit of relief. So I'm going to take a 1/8 inch Allen key, which will be this one, and we're just going to tighten maybe 1/8 of a turn. How's that? And that neck is now dead straight. So we're going to level the frets as it is. Yeah, and that's looking pretty good. In fact, it looks very good. So that's dead straight. So what we're going to do, what we need to do is I need to build up a little ramp area here. And I'm going to use various bits of tape. I'm going to put quite a build up of tape there. So we'll go with a couple. And a bit more. What I'm going to do first is tape up the edge, because I've got to tape up the whole fingerboard anyway. So I'm just going to tape up to about 5 frets. It makes it easy for me to peel the tape off later. Same the other side. And I will just zoom in with the camera. Something I thought I'd done, I've not done. I'm going to zoom in just so you can see a little bit more. Normally I would remove a nut, but in this case I'm not going to remove a nut because it's too much faff. I'm going to stick a couple of pieces there. And I'm going to go just a little bit thinner. Just to start building up a nice ramp. I could actually use a thinner tape. In fact, I will use a thinner tape. Like so. A couple of still need to keep building. A little bit thinner again. And again. We're just building up a smallish ramp. We'll go back to this one. And we're getting there now. Again. Some thinner. Can you see what I'm doing here? Thinner again. Maybe a bit too thin with that one, but see what we're getting at here, don't you? And it's just making it a nice little ramp, just for when. Stick that on there. Just when we come across with the sanding beam, the levelling beam. One more. And we're up to the top, and that's great. What we're going to do is we want to completely miss this nut and not carve into it. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go over the nut with one more piece, and that is enough. And we're going to take some of the Scotch 3M low tack. We're going to do exactly the same with this. And we are just going to take a thinner piece, like so, and then a thicker piece from this way. And we've now built a small ramp. And now when I come to levelling the frets with the levelling beam, you know what the levelling beam is, I've shown you many times before. And when we come to doing the frets with the beam, when we get to here, to the last fret, it's going to go on the tape and it's going to go. If we go too far, it's just going to scoot up over the nut and it's not going to damage the nut in any way, shape or form. So this is basically how I'm going to be doing it, and we're already removing material. Now I don't want to be removing material yet, you can see there, because we're going to mucky up the fingerboard. And that, I'm going to keep my eye on this, and I'll keep adding extra bits of tape. And now and again, once it starts to get worn, we're not going to be filing that much, we're not going to be removing that much material anyway, so it isn't going to take long. It doesn't matter if we cut into this tape, as long as we don't cut into the nut itself. What we're going to do is we're going to clean up this whole area. And you'll see I've just started to take down the side of the neck. And I'll see which tape I have most of left. I have most of this one left. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do the rest of the neck with this. The reason I run this down, it'll be explained in a moment, but what I do is just get it done first, and that's that part. And all the way on the length of the whole neck. That side's done. And it just makes it easier when I remove the tape from the whole fingerboard later. I'm sure you see me do this before. So that's that. And what we're going to do is we're going to tape each side of each fret. When I'm working on the frets now, you see, I'm not going to get filings on the wood. And when it comes to polishing and everything, I'm not going to go into the fingerboard. When it comes to when I'm using the files across here, I'm not going to go into the fingerboard at all. I'm going to keep all the filings and dirt and whatever away from the fingerboard completely. So I'm going to crack on with this, get it all taped up, and what I will is it's not going to stay like this. Where we tape up, we go right up to each fret. It's quite a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. It's fantastic when you get all your frets done. Normally when I'm refretting a guitar, I put in a new nut. In this case I don't need to remove the nut, so I've started doing this and building up this little ramp. And it means I can keep the old nut there. Now sometimes if we go with a higher fret wire, I will have to replace the nut because we need to cut the slots a little bit higher. I like using a higher fret wire, but this is not a refret, this is just a fret level, so we're fine. We'd like to keep the nut, the original nut in. You're getting to see now, wow, the indentations in these frets, and there's some really deep ones here, and it's really flattened out with some deep whelps in there. So we've got a bit of work to do with this. Yeah, it's not a 5-minute job. That's as much as we can go with on width. We'll start getting now to the point where we are overlapping, so we're going to take that there. We're going to pull back, just going to fold in and over, and got a little line there, that's fine. And when we get to these areas now, we're going to have to rip it down the centre because we're going to have an overlap. But you see how this is going, so I'm going to crack on, get these all taped up. There's a little bit to do. Got some even thinner stuff here, look. Let's do that little tiny bit there. And I'm going to carry on. I'm going to get this all taped up, the whole lot, and once that's done, come across with a levelling beam. We can start getting these frets levelled. All these flat spots here, there are going to be flat spots everywhere. We're going to level the whole lot. Get a nice radius on there, then we're going to come back, we're going to crown them and we're going to polish them. Now levelling frets does not take long. I've already been across and levelled them. You can see, we can probably see that they're all flat. There's a couple of green spots here, so I need to go down just that little bit more, but not too much. We never want to go more than we need to. So we're going to brush off all the crap there. See, we've come into the tape, but we've not gone into the nut, which is fantastic. Always just keep building up with a little bit more tape. That's what I'm going to do. And we're just going to, you know, we've got another piece spare there if we need to use that in a bit. I doubt we will. But let me just show you how this little ramp works. It's fantastic. But what we're going to do is we're going to mark up all of the frets again. Using a green pen today. All depends which one I'm going to pull out. I can still see divots in here. Quite a deep one there. And we're going to bring everything down to the level of the divots, but no more. All the lacquer on top of the frets is now gone. I've already removed that. What I'm open to do here, without removing too much material, is just get rid of these divots. We'll get them so thin you hardly see them. So we're going to go with the 240 grit side. We'll give that a little brush. It's just a matter of, you'll see when we hit that ramp, we go over the ramp. I'm trying to maintain the radius, which I'm sure I've done. Turn it around, always turn it around, not of course. And there's no green pen there, there's a tiny bit just on this edge. I'm saying that, looking at it. And that is all the green pen removed. So that's looking really, really good. We moved quite a bit of material from some of these. That one's quite flat. But we do have enough there to re-crown, so we're going to be good. Going to do one more time. And this time we're going to finish off with the radius beam. So we're going to make sure we've maintained that 9.5 inch radius. We're going to go with a finer grit of paper. We're going to go with 400 grit. I've already got the radius beam taped up. We're removing as little height as possible off of these frets, because the more height we remove, the more difficult it is to re-crown later. So we have 9.5 inch wooden beam. I'd use my metal one, but this one's already taped up, it's already papered up. I think my 9.5 metal one is. So we're going to scoot that off. It's been used a couple of times, but we've still got enough on there. And all we're going to do now is we're going to hopefully maintain this radius. So we're going to give one scoot, one that way, one that way, and we're going to see that all the pen is just about off. It means the radius has been maintained all along the length. So we're just going to give it a couple of scoots, and that's it. All the pen has been removed. We maintain the radius. Get one time this way for luck. And there you go. And all of these frets are silver topped. It means the frets are level. You can see where we've flattened out these frets now if you look closely. And they are quite flat. We haven't removed too much material, but we are just under a millimetre there. I wouldn't want to go much lower. So that ramp really worked out for us. We didn't even go down to the nut, which is fantastic news. It means we'll probably have to reshape that nut afterwards though, because we've gone a little bit lower on the frets. So all I need to do now is we're going to start the re-crowning process. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-crown a fret while you're here, while the camera is running. Makes it a lot easier than keep stop starting. I'm going to take a black marker pen this time. And I'm going to zoom in, see where the camera zooms, because I'm going to get it into where you can see. Okay. I want to be there. So, right. So the best place for me to be is going to be here. You're not going to see so much. I am going to change the camera angle. I'm going to do it live. So, bear with me. There you go, that's fine. I'm just going to turn you around here. Sorry about that, but now you're going to be able to see. Okay, let me just grab a couple of files. I'm going to do this quite quickly. I'm going to explain what I'm doing. I'm just going to take 2 files for this. I do have other files which I will be using, but I'm just going to show you how we crown the fret. Now what we've done is, these frets now, we've levelled them, are now flat across the top, like so. And we need to put that crown back in. And the way we do that is with a 3/8 file, ground safe edges there. So good thing about ground safe, it means I'm not going to cut into the paper, which means I'm not going to cut into the fingerboard, but I will cut when I angle the file. So what we do is to rebuild that crown, we're going to file across the fret, and as I file I'm going to angle the file toward the camera, and we're going to rebuild that crown. And then I'm going to come the opposite side, I'm going to angle the file away from the camera. I'm going to rebuild the crown that side. And once we've done that, we're going to have this beautiful crown going this way. And I'll finish off with the proper profiling file anyway, which will remove any burrs and it'll even out the crown I've just made. I could do it just with this, but I prefer the 3-cornered file because I've always used it. It's the way I learned to do it. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit in case it's a little bit fuzzy. So what we do is we start with, we clean the file, take a marker pen. I'm just going to do a couple. I'm going to take this centre one on fret number 2 as you see it. And I'm already cutting there, but I'm going to start to angle the file toward the camera now. And there you go. I've already started building that crown. And what I'm looking to do is get a line just down the centre, probably 0.4 millimeters, and that's going to be the part of the fret that the string touches. So it's going to have a nice dome to it. About half a millimetre, 0.4 millimeters good. And I'm just going to angle the file away from the camera on this side. And there you go, and I have a lovely thin line right down the centre. And what I'm going to do then is, I'm going to blow away the filings, and I'm just going to take this one and I'm going to basically just scoot across the top. And we have re-crowned that fret, so we've got that lovely crown going across here, nice and smooth, nice thin black line down the centre. And that is one done. I'll show you again one more time. Far side, I'm going to angle the file toward the camera. This side, I'm going to angle the file away from the camera. Not cutting at the moment. Once I start angling, here you go. Clean the file, blow away the crap. Profiling file, clean inside, reprofile. And that is done. What I'm also going to do, see now these are reprofiled, but they are really scratched up now. We're going to polish those scratches out later. But while I'm here, I'm just going to take my fret rocker and we're just going to check that these frets are still level. And if they are still level, which they are, it means I've not removed any height, but I have recrowned. Where they were once flat, they are now recrowned. So jobs are good, and I have 20 odd more to do, probably 19 more to do. So I'm going to crack on with that. Once that's done, we'll get to polishing these and I'll show you how I do that procedure. So crowning all done. We've now got the neck in a vise, supported both sides, nice and tight, not going to move. I've already started polishing the frets, and what I do is I take some quite coarse grit. This is a 180 grit, I think, but it's quite a soft 180 grit. And what I first do is I come over and roll over the bevels, nice and light. This has already been used, this paper, so it's not too rough. And it just rounds over these bevels really, really nice. Once that's done, I'll take another piece of used, quite coarse, again 180 but used, and I'll do my first polish over the frets. Now I'll go over the top and I'll come and get into the corner, so press right into the sides here and finish over the top, blah, 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 blah. And that's my first run, and I've already done that. And once that's done, I'll brush off any gubbins that's left there. And they're already looking quite smooth and shiny, but we're not finished yet, not by a long chalk. And while we polish this, we do two things when we're polishing. One, we're removing all the scratches that we put on there with the files, and we're also bringing them up to a nice shine. It's why we go with different and more fine grits every time. And I've already used that used 180, but I'm going to go with we'll go with 800, 1000, 1200, 1500 and 2000 grits, getting finer and finer each time. I can remove more of the scratches and bring it to beautiful shine. Once that's all done, we'll go with finest grade steel wool. And what I do is, now we've already rolled over the bevels, we don't need to do that again because they're quite smooth anyway. And I'll just wet the back of my finger. We'll get a little bit on there, and we're just going to go straight over the top. And that's really it until we come back on the second run. So I'll go over the top. I've now moved on to the second one. I can already see scratches being removed. They will look quite dull for a while, but that doesn't matter. We're going to come to a shine, trust me. This is all about removing the scratches. And we're going to go over the top. And we have, I believe it's a 21 fret neck. So we've already done one, we've got 5 more to do. In fact, we do 7 lots of 21. Which is that 147? So we're polishing 147 frets. But what we do is just going over the top on the first run. But just for sake of time, once we've gone over the top, we've got down to the end, we're going to come back and we're going to get right into the corners each side. So I'm actually on the far near side to you, pressing right into that corner, then I'm going to slip over the fret and come into this corner, pushing that way, and I get into the corner again. So we're polishing all of the fret. Then I'll finish and go over the top again, like so. And that will be one polish. I'm going to do this with each fret. So each fret is going to get done really. We're going to get done, what do I say, 127 times, double that. It's 254 polishes all together. Each fret will be done 7 times. No, 6 bits of paper, 7, probably 8 times. And that is looking fine already. Don't forget, we've got 4 finer grits to go yet. So I'm going to crack on with this, get them all done. It does take a while and it's a bit dirty. But it's so satisfying and rewarding once it's all done. These frets will look absolutely fantastic once I've finished. So I'm going to crack on with that. I will come back when I'm at the stage where we're finishing off with a steel wool, but you will not really get how good this is until I peel off the tape and show you. So stay tuned and come back. Right at the very end of polishing, I've been through with the 6 grits of paper. Tedious work, takes a while, but so rewarding. These frets look amazing. I'll just finish off. I've got 2 to do with the finest grade steel wool. And these frets are absolutely beautiful. So what I do is when I'm doing it with steel wool, I go up sides first, then I finish off going this way. It's just a matter, I've already done this one, but it's a matter of going up the top, over the top. I'll show on this one, over the top, like so, really press in there, and this is going to bring them to the most beautiful shine. Then get in the sides. I'm on the far side at the moment. Get right underneath it. Then on the side nearest to you, far side from me. Then come back OTT over the top, and that is just stunning. I'm going to get a magnifying glass on there in a minute. You may be able to see a little bit better. Last one. Go into the corner, get into the corner, and that's it. And these frets are like glass. They're so beautiful. I'll just get a looking glass on there. And you not really get the effect until I remove all of the tape, which I'm going to do in a minute. But maybe that'll give you a bit of an idea. You'll see a little bit more. Those frets are, they're stunning. Let's have a look. They are so beautiful. So I'm going to remove the neck from the vise. Peel off all the tape, and we can get the neck back on the guitar. Got a little bit of cleaning to do between the nut slots because we've got some of the dust has just gone in there. We need to clean that up a little. In fact, I can do that right now. I will take my welder's tool, small set of files, starting with the smallest. We'll just get in there and clean any gunk from out of there. I'll run a little bit of oil down these slots anyway, just for a bit of extra lube. And not major this. And that's all pretty nice. And I will just take a spot of mineral oil, little squirt on a clean finger, just a little squirt. I'm just going to run that across the top of the nut there. That's beautiful, and that will lube the nut anyway. Not really needs any lube, it's a bone nut, it's quite shiny. And I'll take I'll find one. And that will be that. So that's it, get the tape off, get the neck back on the guitar, get the strings on, get it set up. Job is a good one. So we're just about ready to put the strings back on this guitar, but I wanted to show you the frets now I've removed the tape and cleaned up the neck. And there they are. And aren't they just beautiful? They had flat spots all over them, especially down these areas. The lacquer was all over the tops of the frets in some areas. Now the lacquer is still building up on the sides of the frets in places. I'll just zoom and have a look at that, especially around this area. There's nothing I can do about that, because if I grind that right back down to the fingerboard itself. We're going to have chips and cracks along the fingerboard. So what I've done is I've removed all the lacquer to within about 1/3 of a millimetre up the fret. Nothing I can do, but at the end of the day, this guitar is now perfectly playable with no lacquer on the frets at all. All the frets have been levelled, re-crowned and polished. Beautifully profiled, no high frets on there at all, and as good a job as I could have done. They look fantastic. Once the string's on there, that is going to be amazing. I know Simon is going to be really, really pleased. So I'm going to have to crack on with this because Simon is more or less on his way. I told him we can pick it up in an hour. I told him about 15 minutes ago. So I'm going to get the strings back on, get it tuned in, and it should all be done. I've already did the setup before I took the strings off, so we should be okay. I will check the intonation again, but exactly the same strings are going on, so we should be absolutely fine. I was quite happy with the setup as it was before I took the strings off. So I'm going to crack on, get the strings back on, get it tuned in, stretch the strings in, and it will all be good to go, and it should just be done before Simon gets here. And here we are, and the guitar is all good, all done. One thing I've done on this that I don't normally do is I've put the old strings on. And the reason I put the old strings on is Simon has gone and bought some new tuners for this, for Fender ones, but lock-in. So there's no point putting a brand new set of strings on this guitar if all he's going to do is when he gets home is take these off, put the new tuners on and put a new set of strings on. So I've left that bit out. There can be a bit of a bind putting on old strings, but we only snapped one. We snapped the third string, which will be gauge at 17017. I have many spares knocking about. I got one of my good old spares that would be used, any used ones that are good strings, you know, like if I've been on a recent guitar and I've had a new set on there, I tend to keep the best of them. So it's a good string gone on there and it will suffice for what it needs to last for. The guitar is absolutely beautiful. If you want to get in a bit closer and have a look at those frets, it came in. There was lacquer all over the frets, which we needed to get rid of. There were also quite a lot of flat spots on the frets. So I recommended a complete fret level and reprofile, which is exactly what I've done. But what we have to do is when we're leveling frets, we have to level them to the lowest point of any of the divots or the flat spots. So we've taken a bit of material off all of the frets, but we still have, we have about 0.8, 0.9 millimeters of fret left there, maybe even getting up to a millimeter. So there is plenty of life in these frets yet. It's why I recommended the fret level. Lacquer wise, I don't know why they do that with the lacquer. Spray over the frets, it's just a bind because once it starts wearing off and cracking, you're going to get uneven frets everywhere. But anyway, it's done. The playing surface is now perfectly level. Not a compound radius on this because it is a 2004 model. I don't think they started putting the compound radiuses on the deluxe models until round about 2010. So that explains why it was not a compound radius. Now we know. So there it is, all ready to go. Cracking looking guitar. It's had a setup as well. I've checked everything. I've reset the radius in the intonation. The electrics are all working fine. The tuners are all tight and working properly. And everything is good. One thing I do need to do, which I've not done yet, is tighten up the strap pins, which I will check right here and right now. Beautiful guitar. Little turn on that, just a little, and there. Beautiful guitar. It's a 2004 Fender Deluxe Telecaster. Looks fantastic. I don't know what the pickups are, but I know they will be very, very good. It sounds fantastic. I've had this plugged in. And I normally go with an overdrive as a boost. I didn't have to with this, that's how good the pickups are. Couple of dings in this. One I noticed on the neck there. Just a small one, and there was one there where it's been touched up with lacquer. Made a very good job of it, very, very smooth. And it's beautiful. So that is the guitar done. The owner is coming for it this afternoon, Simon. So that's all good. So I will move on to the next one. So until next time, fret friends, as always, I'm Vic. I'm your host. I'm your fret friend. And until the next time, before I go, check my website. Facebook is the best place to go. Facebook.com/NG17. That's Facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. So until next time, as always, God bless you. Be good to each other. And I will see you soon.